Have you heard it was on the news? Your child can read you like a bedtime story, like a magazine, like a has-been out to grass, like afternoon TV. Why is my life going by so fast? Hello, I love you. Is there anybody in there? Put down the phone, shut up the show, make all the techno babble stop. We'll find the shortwave frequency, the wave connecting you and me. Hello, I love you. Have you heard it was on the news? The general staff can't figure out, is this campaign win or lose? Life is long, but it goes fast. The kids will have to separate their future from our past. Hello, I love you. Is there anybody in there that goes to walking by my side? I feel their love, I feel their pride, for I have built a bridge or two.
Hey there, gang. It's Saturday. It's the weekend. It's the 11th of May. It's 2024, and we got silver and gold to talk about tonight. But look at that debt. It just keeps climbing. $34,728 billion. And, you know, you'd think Mike Johnson would have done something by now, but apparently he's not interested in bringing down the debt. So I want to say hello to everyone joining us tonight. Give us a 5x5 or your favorite gun caliber in the comment section of the live streaming platform of your choice, please. Let us know you can hear us. And I know YouTube, I know this is copyrighted material and everything, but we're not a monetized channel, so just give us your, copyright infringement warning and just get it over with. Thank you very much, YouTube. Okay, there we go. We're getting some gun calibers in. Misty Atkinson, 40 caliber, 4570 from Tez It's Tez. I'm going to call you Tez. Adam Van. Hey there, buddy. How long do you have to wait for freedom? In Missouri, not much longer. About a week. About a week. Take. Yeah, give or take. And we should have sound money legislation signed, hopefully, and going to the governor's desk. Okay, so we got some sound coming in. So thank you very much for that. And let's check on Twitter real quick. Okay, let's see. I'll say something in the Twitter chat. Okay, gang. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. We're going to switch over to our gang at Gilded. Those who are joining us for the live stream, part of the gang tonight. Okay. I'll take off the mute over there. And I want to say hello. Of course, I've got Daniel here with Citizens for Sound Money. We've got Gretchen Garrity, the writer of the Right to Win Ozarks blog. You'll find it below in the description section of all of our videos. We have Voodoo Queen with us as well. We have Sam joining us from Missouri Liberty Radio and his signature program, Off the Cuff. So thank you for joining us, Sam. We've got...
You bet, absolutely.
You bet. Love having you, man. And so we got Caleb, also known as Liberty Revolutionary. And it looks like we got Rebel Cry with us tonight. We haven't seen Rebel Cry in a while. So welcome, man. Thank you for joining. Okay, I will turn the music off now because I know everyone can hear us. And thank you for chiming in, everyone. And that is Adam Van, our friend in New Hampshire, by the way. If you guys see on YouTube, he's typing in. Adam Van actually works for Alpine Gold, and so he is someone we visited with in New Hampshire when we were out there a couple of months ago. So a special hello to Adam Van. Thank you. And let's see, Truth Faction's with us. We've got Misty Atkinson. Gary Ride is with us. Hey there, Gary. Let's see, Serenity Asylum Acres and sent me a text about piggies. Okay, I'll have to take a look at that text. Sorry about that. I get a lot of texts, and sometimes I miss a bunch of them. And let's see. And hello to anyone joining us. Okay, Ozarks Freedom Gal joining us on Rumble and on Twitter. We got lots of folks watching, but they haven't chimed in. So hello to everyone on Twitter. We're going to talk about mainly two things tonight, and that's going to be the silver and gold bill in Missouri. And we are literally approaching the end of session, which is Friday, the 17th of May at 5 p.m. That is it. That's it. It's over at that point. But we are situated to actually go on the floor this week with SB735, the Missouri Constitutional Money Act. This is pretty exciting stuff, gang. We're about to go on the floor again. And yes, there could be pitfalls, landmines, covering the legislative landscape. There could be a governor wanting to veto the bill. We just don't know. But all we can do is get it over the finish line so we can actually get it done through the General Assembly and send it to the governor's desk. That's all we can do. And remember now, we still have 835 in play as well. So we have two options to get some type. Of course, the best case scenario is 735. 835 is better than nothing. And I'm not sure that that can be amended. And hello to Pika Cario. Hey there, buddy.
Hey,
so
Adam.
We'll try and set the stage for you guys and where we're at. What happened in the last week was nothing less than miraculous. We got through two committees and review committees. That's rules and fiscal review in 1 week. We didn't do that last year. So we're moving pretty quick. And, of course, a lot of hard work is being done on the inside by Representative Bill Hardwick.
Indeed.
So we got to give him some big kudos for that. He is working very hard. I know Senator Eigel is still working this as well. And that's where it needs to be. And let's see. Misty says, Jody Grace is hosting praise and prayer in Eigel's office 12-1 this Monday. 12 to 1 this Monday. Okay, gotcha. Well, we'll be at the Capitol. We'll see what we can do. That's about the time we'll be arriving. And Daniel and I are going to be camping out at the Capitol, basically so we don't have to do the drive. It's 2 hours and 45 minutes roughly, one way. And so that way we can avoid the drives and be there every day this week until the legislation is on the floor. So that is our plan. It's called whipping the vote. I called it canvassing last year. I always assumed whipping the vote was kind of relegated to someone who's been elected into an office. And when you're, like I am, an unelected person, you canvass. But no, we're whipping the vote. We're going and asking direct questions at this point. But it won't just be Daniel and me. There's CEOs flying in from all over the nation to come in and help us whip the vote. CEOs from gold and silver companies. Daniel, would you mind?
Yeah, actually, Adam Van's boss, Mark Hilton, the CEO of Alpine Gold, will be flying in on Monday. We also have Nathan Lewis, who is the think tank head of I think it's the New World Economics think tank. He's flying in from New York on Monday. We're also going to have Brian Dorr of Coro Gold going to be there. And I'm trying to get a couple more people to come out. But with the bill already on the informal calendar, and we were told it might, we're not sure, it might come up for a vote on Monday. We have to see and check it out. Also, Ann Vandersteel, who is a media personality in the conservative movement, is going to come out as well, I think on Tuesday or Wednesday. So
it's all hands on deck, and we're going to be doing everything we can on the inside. And for those who are not coming to the Capitol, I'm going to ask you guys to help us out, too, with phone calls and emails. Keep them coming in. Keep them positive. Guys, I got to tell you something. I'm really, really proud of this effort. that is, basically the grassroots effort for sound money legislation. Let me tell you why. Number one, it's been a terrifically positive campaign. They've tried to go negative on us a few times. Some stories are, you guys know this one, on March 11th, and that would be a month ago, March, April, 2 months ago, we handed out gold backs after a rally. And so some of you were there and saw this happen, and ended up being someone in the House had complained that the gold backs were being distributed as a way to buy legislators or buy their votes, even though there was paperwork that came with the gold back, stating what it was, how it was made, who donated them, and their value, which is $4.44 on that day. And so that's the kind of stuff we unfortunately put up as grassroots. We talked last week about when it comes to SB727, the grassroots were accused of taking Democrat dark money, and that's why they were against 727. So this kind of thing we put up with from time to time, and it's truly unfortunate. But what I want to say is how positive the grassroots have stayed on this sound money issue. That comes across, gang. We're up there. We hear about the phone calls. We hear about the emails that come in. And we have not heard anything negative. This is how you do it. You can't give them, ammunition to go against the grassroots on these big campaigns like the Sound Money campaign. And this is as big a campaign as we have seen since SEPA. This is a really terrific campaign, and it's a very, very, very important one at the same time. I'm very proud to be a part of it, and I'm very proud that Citizens for Sound Money are coming here to help us out. Last year was a great effort. We got right to the finish line, weren't allowed to cross. We're presenting a little bit more of a presence this year than we did last year because of CEOs coming in to talk. And then also there is a possibility, this is not a likely scenario, but there is a possibility Daniel and I will be addressing the Republican caucus on Monday at 3:00. And so we can answer any questions they have about the sound money legislation. So that's another exciting opportunity that may be coming our way this year that we didn't have last year. So there's a lot of stars lining up for this, gang. So, and I know we have issues. Like I said, a possibility of landmines, a possibility of, all kinds of pitfalls, a possibility of a governor veto. I get all that. But the fact of the matter is no one can point at the grassroots and say, they ran a terrible campaign. They did this, they did that. Nope, they can't do it. You guys did great. And we need to continue doing great for one more week. And so I know it's a sacrifice. I mean, it's a sacrifice for me, too. I've been to the Capitol 21 times this year now. So I've broken my records. In 2021, when we were doing SEPA, those of you who knew me then, I actually was up there, I believe it was 17 times in 2021. So I've already broken that already this year. So I'm sacrificing, too, because I don't make money going up there, obviously. I can't work when I go up to the Capitol. However, I wouldn't take any of it back. None of it. This has been a very positive experience, and we got a lot of great people joining us. We were at a Mike Moon event today, and there are people, because I was wearing my shirt, the one you see me wearing right now, the silver and gold shirt, people coming up and talking to me about the silver and gold bill and, if I knew anything about it and how awesome it was. And these are people right here in Nixa, Missouri, next neighboring town. And that was really great to hear. That was really great. I have no idea who those people are. For all I know, they're on my email list, but I wouldn't know. We got over 3,000 folks on the email list. I don't know them all, obviously. But so, guys, we're just about there. And I want to thank all of you for all of your help and ask you to continue helping us during this week. Now, we will, and I'll shut up here in a second, we will be providing live updates on Ron's Basement during the week. So I'm not sure that we'll get any live streams done. I'm not sure that we really can because of the nature of the work we're doing. But we can go down, to a quiet office and then visit with Ron at Ron's Basement for 10 minutes and just kind of let him know how things are going. But also, Nick Reed, KSGF, Springfield, Missouri. Nick Reed said he wouldn't mind having updates on his show, which is a radio station based out of Springfield, Missouri. And we'll call him up and give him updates as well. And Rob Carter with News Talk STL is also asking us to provide updates with his nightly show, 8 to 10 p.m. So we got plenty of support in the media right now, too, to get our message across, where we're at, if we need help, where, a bottleneck may be that we need help with from the grassroots while we're inside. So I won't be sending emails out during the week. So really won't have time for that. We'll be working, like I said, on the inside and working with the media. So stay tuned to Ron's Basement, KSGF, and also News Talk STL with Rob Carter. So that's literally the plan. That's what we're doing, gang. That's it in a nutshell. And we're pulling out all the stops. We're doing everything we can to make sure this gets across the finish line, to make sure that the Missouri Republican caucus understands this bill and what it can do for people in the state, understanding the free market options that exist for silver and gold transactions. Other states have already landed on the moon and stepped on the moon. We have not. And it's kind of funny. It's always funny to me when people have no idea how this stuff can work when other states are already doing it. But that's part of the education process, and we have to do this as grassroots. So at any rate, that's kind of my, and I'm sorry about the long diatribe here, but that's kind of what's going on right now, gang. And we're getting really, really close here, really close. So thank you again for all of your hard work. Okay, so we can open it up. Oh, hang on. One more thing I want to cover, but we don't have to do it this second, is IP reform. So we'll hit that before the end of the broadcast. Ron Calzone sent out a really good email about this, and I think that's something that we need to take a real close look at, because it is SJR 74, and the thing is SJR 74 is mostly, not all, but mostly SJR 61, which is something that we actually decided as a group to actually support. And this is not for IP reform. This is for concurrent majority reform. Because SJR 74, as it's been fixed in the House now, it's going back to the Senate. And in fact, it should be on the floor on Monday, right around 4 o'clock. That's what we're hearing for SJR 74. So that's a real good possibility. It might be a good idea to call your senators and ask them to pass as is. It's ready to go, gang. This bill is bulletproof. We didn't get House districts, but we did get congressional districts. But everything else we wanted is there. So I say, basically it's time to call our senators and say, we like SJR 74 the way it is. Please don't amendment, just pass it. So we'll talk more about that later on in the show. But I'd like to open it up for general conversation and discussion.
I do want to say hello to the 42 people on Twitter.
Hey, there we go.
There you go.
There we go. Hello to everyone on Twitter for watching. I appreciate you guys. Watch what we're doing here in Missouri. This is something you'll probably want to emulate in your states. So if you're into sound money legislation, please take a look at literally SB735. And I can put a link. I'll get that up and put a link up there for you guys. If you're in another state, I would, if I were you, print out a copy of that, bring it to your state senator or state rep, and literally ask them to pre-file that for 2025.
Indeed, and if you want some support in pushing the legislation, reach out to Citizens for Sound Money at citizens, the number 4, soundmoney.org. We have a sign-up sheet under the Legislative Initiative tab. Click on that. You should see a sign-up with a little text area where you can say, hey, I want to push the Sound Money Act or the Constitutional Money Act in my state. Submit that, and we'll reach out to you and provide you guys support during the next legislative session.
There we go. I just put that bill in the chat on Twitter. I'll also go ahead and see if I can get it in the comment section on Twitter. Give me a second there for that. Make sure you guys have easy access to this bill. It's good stuff. Louisiana just got approved for their plan.
Oh, nice. That's a legal tender plan. So Louisiana might be the 6th state with legal tender, if I'm not mistaken.
Uh-oh. Gosh darn it. Louisiana. Gosh darn it. I will have to take a look at that. Let's see what Louisiana did. Pardon me. In Louisiana, gosh darn it. I hope you guys got legal tender. That would be way cool if you guys actually got that done.
Find campaigns.
Find campaigns. Okay, we're about to see what Louisiana just got done.
Right there. Third reading.
Okay, approved in the Senate. What is the bill?
I don't think that took you to the bill. You have to click on the actual link.
Okay.
Where's SB735?
Okay. Third reading.
House read, titled, passed third reading. There you go. Go to the, where is it?
Legal tender.
Legal tender.
That
There
is
you
a
go.
legal tender bill.
Louisiana.
So,
If the governor signs it, Louisiana. Wait, hold on. Yeah, Senate House. Louisiana has legal tender. They'll be the sixth state in the union.
gosh darn it. They got there before us,
They
apparently.
beat Missouri.
They beat Missouri. Well, everyone's beating Missouri. Everyone. So,
Check the text. Let's see what else. If it's just legal tender or if there's something else in that bill. I'm curious. Texts up there. Oh, yeah, there you go.
okay. We're bringing up the PDF right now. Actually, let me bring that over
Yeah, so people
so you
can
guys
see.
can see it. Okay, let's see what Louisiana got done.
The bold, you passed part of it.
Okay, tender and acceptance of the United States government gold and silver coins. Any gold or silver coin specie issued by
Any state.
Any state.
Ah.
Okay,
Or
there
the
we go.
United States as a legal tender shall be recognized as legal tender in the state of Louisiana. No person shall incur any liability for refusal to accept recognized legal tender for the payment of debts as provided by contract. Scroll down. Is that it? Oh, that's it. Two
Yep.
lines?
Yep, that's it.
A very simple legal tender bill.
Yep. So, yep, it looks like Louisiana's
So that means any gold or silver coin or specie issued by any state. Issued. Okay, so the state of Missouri would have to issue its own currency. I wonder if it could be defined as legal tender in a state, which would broaden that to any gold and silver bullion.
Yeah, it'd be helpful if they had definitions. I mean, because the goldbacks are being missed out on, electronic transfers of gold and
Right.
silver are being missed out on. But at least they're getting legal tender for gold and silver coins. And that, by definition, is completely compliant
Yes.
with Article 1, Section 10 of the United States Constitution. So there you go, gang. Looks like Louisiana's waiting for a governor's signature. There's like 10, 11 states that have gotten gold, silver legislation done this year, as opposed to last year, there was only 3.
Yep.
Okay.
And that's good. You know, we went from 4 states to 5 states. Now it looks like we're going to have 6 states as long as the governor of Louisiana doesn't veto the bill.
Yep.
And from my understanding, I think the last state in the union that has legal tender legislation is Alaska. I know J.P. Cortez from the Sound Money Defense League is flying out there from Louisiana. He's going to be in Alaska next week to see and I guess whip the vote to try to make gold and silver legal tender out there.
Okay, gang, we got to do what we got to do to make sure that we are number 7, lucky number 7 in 2024. So for legal tender. So, yep, that's that's literally up to us at this point to make sure that they understand what they're voting on. But right now, like I said, we have a pretty good engine running here. We have Bill Hardwick in the House, and honest to God, Bill has been fabulous. He's been really easy for us to work with, and he really, truly cares about this bill and believes in this bill. So that's made it easier for us to work with him. And then on top of which, like I said, if you guys, saw the way Bill Eigel worked this, through the Senate and everything, he did a great job too. But this is the shining piece of legislation along with IP reform that we can get through this year that would kind of save the year legislatively. So I know we all took a hit on SB727. I get that. We'll have to deal with that, basically in due time. But let's get some good stuff across. Let's actually have something to be proud of. And something, too, that the rest of the states can look at as a model for passing in their states.
And for those that are watching from around the internet, maybe we can show them where they can check where their state is with legislation. Citizens Sound Money, we have I think you go to that other link, available bill text, and go back 2 clicks. We have a list of all 24 states that our coalition of organizations, which is the Missouri Freedom Initiative, Economic War Room, and ourselves, and the Sound Money Defense League. We have a list of all the states that have legislation and where they are. So if you copy that and maybe drag it over to show them.
All right, guys, I'm starting with Twitter, putting the link in where you can check all the states with their current legislation. I just put it in Twitter. It is now going into the YouTube chat.
YouTubes.
Okay, and now going into Rumble.
Rumble, and then Odysee.
Yep, and now in Odysee. And let's see, 3 watching in Odysee. Thank you for watching in Odysee, by the way. Used to be our main platform. Okay, there we go. It is available for all of you guys to see. You could follow all the states and what they have gotten done so far this year. Okay, general discussion. Anyone have anything they want to bring up or talk about?
Well, I really enjoyed Mike Moon's campaign launch today.
Oh, it's great.
Yep, it was.
It was awesome.
Yeah, what I really enjoyed was that you had Congressman Burleson, and you had multiple state reps. You had the pastor who ran against. So Representative Burleson beat Mike Moon and the pastor Alex. I forget his last name. And what's amazing? What is it? Alex what?
Bryant.
Alex Bryant. And Alex Bryant and Representative Burleson ran against Moon, and they came out and supported him and endorsed him for his campaign. That tells you about the caliber, and they spoke so extremely highly of Moon and how he's a constitutionalist. And it was funny, Representative Burleson had a vote situation in D.C. this past week, and he said he brought up his inner Mike Moon. What would Mike Moon do if he was in his shoes? And that says a lot about an individual when other legislators or congressmen are using you as the standard. And it reminds me of how Ron Paul is the standard for so many legislators that are constitutionalists. And Mike Moon kind of gives that aura. I mean, everybody, we had 5 or 6 speakers talk about Senator Moon, and man, I wish I lived here and he was my senator. I would have loved to have voted. Go ahead.
Yeah. Imagine what would happen if all those legislators that were in the room decided they were going to be as constitutional as he was.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine what would happen.
Man, I want to clone Senator Moon. Have like 100 of
sure.
them. Oh my gosh, if there were 100 Mike Moons, we would be the freest state in the union. When I say we, I'm in the state of Missouri right now. But man, I tell you what, he's a phenomenal statesman.
Yeah. I agree.
I've never met a more humble guy, too, as far as when I've interviewed him.
Yes, and you're absolutely right. He truly is. I've known him for years, and that definitely describes. That's one of the descriptors I would use for Mike Moon. He's very humble.
Yeah.
Very, very religious man, Christian, and probably one of the most generous-natured men I've ever met before in my entire life. And trust me, folks, I've met a lot of people in my life. He's someone everyone should consider modeling, basically not only themselves after, but how you raise your kids.
Yeah.
So Mike Moon is extraordinary. He is a diamond in the rough, and that was spoken about tonight, basically that his voting record is the most constitutional voting record I believe we've ever had before, at least in recent memory, in the entire legislature in the state of Missouri. So he takes the U.S. Constitution and the Missouri Constitution very seriously, and he does not vote yes on anything that violates the U.S. or the Missouri Constitution, which is, unfortunately, roughly about 90% of the legislation that goes through the state of Missouri. Not all of it gets passed, of course, but...
and they were joking about how in the House, some of the reps that were speaking for him at the event were saying that, oh, there's rumors that there's a filibuster, and immediately they think it's Moon, and it's the vote basically comes out 31 to moon or something like that, 32 to moon.
Right.
Because there's 32 or there's 32 senators, so it's 31 to moon instead of 31 to 1. Because he'll just filibuster and ask questions about the constitutionality of any of the bills that he sees that are violating the Constitution. And man, if we had senators like that in every state that would filibuster when it's unconstitutional at the state or federal constitution, man,
that'd be a very different country.
Oh my
very
gosh.
different country if we had people like Mike Moon in D.C. You know, Thomas Massey is the closest you'll come to a Mike Moon when it comes to D.C., by the way. And frankly, I think Moon's a little bit better. Some people are probably going to want to argue with me on that. I don't know Thomas Massey's voting record as well as I do Mike Moon's, but I think Thomas Massey would have met his match if he was voting in the same stuff that Mike Moon was doing. But Thomas Massey also has a very, very good understanding of the U.S. Constitution. So maybe that's not a fair comparison because he's not voting for state constitution. He's voting for federal constitution.
So maybe we talk about a little bit of what's in the SB735 for those new listeners that are wondering what it is.
Sure thing. Before we get started, though, let me answer a few questions here before they ride by on YouTube, and I'll check all of our streams too. First of all, let's see. Adam Van asked, how do we donate to this channel? We need a boost button. Unfortunately, Adam, we don't take donations of any kind, so we're not a monetized channel. So thank you for asking, though. I do appreciate that. And it looks like GETTR Authority and Tez have caught up. Let's see. Warrior Class 3 is asking, do you know if IP reform is going to pass? Well, no, I don't. And actually, let's call it concurrent majority because we're not actually affecting the signatures in SJR 74. So it's not initiative petition reform. It's concurrent majority reform. But right now, I would have to say there's probably a really good possibility, but it is a very, very good idea for everyone to call their senator, and actually let them know SJR 74, please pass it as is. Please vote yes. Don't change it. Don't allow any amendments.
Is it constitutional?
It is. It's completely constitutional. Okay. And in fact, it is almost exactly what Mike Moon filed as SJR 61. So even though it was 5 bills wrapped into one, they pretty much just took Mike Moon's language, for almost the entire
Isn't that nice? If you have Mike Moon as your senator, all you have to do is go, is it constitutional?
Yeah.
Pretty much.
It's not,
Pretty much. So let's see. And then Julie had a question. Was DEI banned from state agencies just this week? I saw something on Twitter. Julie, I'm not sure about that. I don't know. I've been really focused on gold and silver, so I've not really. That sounds terrible, gang. I get that, but because there's other things going on too. But Daniel and I are spending all of our time on the silver and gold bill, honestly. And so, if someone has an answer for Julie, please chime in. Let us know.
Well, I'm not sure exactly what's being talked about there. It's probably something to do with the schools, and there's all kinds of things, initiatives and things that they put forward to do that, and it may pass or may not pass. Fact of the matter is that DEI is all within our DESE and all over in the schools anyway. So if something did, but I think it's going to take a lot of digging to get that stuff out of the school.
Yep. Okay. Let's see. Ozarks Freedom Gal says, greetings from Salem. And B. Hoffner is checking in from Perryville. And Ozark Freedom Gal says, are there reps we need to call or email specifically? My rep is a co-sponsor of the House version. Not sure he needs another call. Ozarks Freedom Gal, I'm gonna call in a favor with you and say that it's probably a good idea for one more call and one more email. And you can make it fun too. I mean, you could just leave a voicemail by doing it during the weekend, and that way you don't have to talk to them directly. Or if you have to call them during the week, just say, hey, I didn't want you to forget about the gold and silver bill. I really, really would like you to vote yes on SB735 and help prevent amendments from going on the bill. We're going to go through the bill in just a minute here.
Well, if she's saying that her rep is a co-sponsor, there's only one rep that's a co-sponsor, and that is the handler.
No, she's probably talking about 1955.
Oh, gotcha.
The one that, since Bill Hardwick voted no on SB727, so he was informed that he lost his legislation for the year. That included HB 1955. That's the way they play, gang. That's the way they play up in Jeff City. Moon and Igel were great on the water bill debates. It was fun to watch. Gosh darn it, I didn't get to see any of it, but I heard quite a bit from Lisa Panette. And so there's a guy out there by the name of Ike, and he knows who he is. And he brought that to the forefront in the state of Missouri, and he is part of the initiative. And he actually worked with other grassroots leaders and with legislators to shut down these resource bills that would have benefited the WEF. This is the power of networking, the power of the grassroots. And Ike, I can't say thank you enough. Thank you for helping protect our state from the WEF. Let's see. Ozarks Freedom Gal says social services sneaks a lot of DEI stuff in as DIB, diversity, inclusion, and belonging. You know what? I don't have to say Ike. Isaac has been on our program. Isaac is the one I meant. Ike is a nickname he goes by. So thank you very much to Isaac for everything he's doing for the state of Missouri. God bless you, sir. Okay, I'm going to check one more place, and then we're going to talk about the bill real quick. For those of you who may not know what this bill does, let's see, and I don't think we have anything else. We have 88 people watching us on Twitter right now. Thank you very much for tuning in. Let's talk about 735. SB stands for Senate Bill 735, which is the Constitutional Money Act in the state of Missouri. So let's go ahead and hit that one real quick. And I'm going to talk about the first two features of it, and then I'll turn it over to Daniel. First and foremost, it is a sound money piece of legislation that actually makes gold and silver legal tender. And by definition, it has to remove state capital gains tax because you can't have capital gains on money. So that's just for starters. But that's actually the heart of the bill. That's where it starts. In fact, that's pretty much what I believe Louisiana just accomplished, except I didn't see anything about capital gains in their state, so maybe they didn't have to get rid of it. But legal tender, making gold and silver legal tender is actually a first step into actually getting away from the dollar, or at least having another option rather than the dollar. So I'll turn it over to Daniel for the rest of the bill.
Yeah, and what we're really excited about at Cities for Sound Money, and why we're calling this the most comprehensive sound money legislation in the country, is because not only does it make physical gold and silver legal tender, getting rid of capital gains, which a lot of states have already done, it actually authorizes electronic currency as defined in the bill, which is electronic currency backed with real gold and real silver as legal tender as well. Another thing that it does, it forces the state to accept gold and silver for the payment of taxes, debts, and fees, public taxes, debts, and fees, and it makes it optional for all private individuals and businesses, unless they both agree to receiving gold or silver for the payments of goods and services by contract. It also allows employers to pay employees in gold and silver if both agree. And it has anti-confiscation language, which is a big 10th Amendment win, basically saying that the state shall not enforce any federal rules or quasi-governmental agencies from confiscating any gold or silver without due process within the state courts. And I believe it's a civil court. All that combined makes this the most comprehensive sound money legislation. And the fact that it's digital as well, and the state has to take both digital and physical gold and silver for payment of debts and taxes and fees. I mean, this is phenomenal. Creates an optional parallel economic system in gold and silver that people can immediately put their cash into and use it digitally with a debit card. There's a bunch of private solutions out there right now you can put gold and silver into and spend your gold and silver with a debit card, and it's a 21st century solution to the problem of just legal tender, because you have 5 states right now. We know Louisiana is going to be the 6th of the governor signs it. That is legal tender, but it's not functional. Well, you're not going to pay with an ounce of gold. You can pay with gold backs. Gold backs have made it completely possible to use physical gold and silver for the payment of debts. But even the most penetrated state, which is Wyoming, 30% of retail businesses accept gold and silver for goods and services. I mean, that's only 30%. You still have 70% of the country. 70% of the state of Wyoming that doesn't accept physical gold and silver. But everybody accepts digital, debit card, or so forth. And here's a perk for businesses, because this is something that we get a lot from business owners. Well, why would we want to accept gold and silver? Well, Mr. Business Owner, if you accept digital gold and digital silver through one of their payment systems, not the cash, but actually have like a QR code or a POS system that people can pay you in that physical gold and silver, you're going to save between 200 to 400% on your credit card transaction fees. Because when you accept physical gold or silver, you're paying between, let's say, 45 basis points versus 200 to 400 basis points with Visa and MasterCard. So that's a huge savings. In fact, the National Federation of Independent Businesses, the NFIB, said that this is such a huge development that this is one of the top issues that the NFIB pushes against Visa and MasterCard to try to save business owners money, because it's just eating up so much of their income. So they're going to be pushing this as a top legislative priority next year. And for example, I gave a speech at the NFIB in Florida, and there's a business owner in Tallahassee that is paying more in credit card transaction fees per month than his rent for a 10,000 square foot retail business location. So this legislation is going to change a lot of things, and I'm excited that Missouri could be the first state to pass the Constitutional Money Act. We call it the Sound Money Act outside of the state of Missouri, and hopefully other states mimic that, and they just take the legislation we pass here and pass it along to their legislatures in the future. So,
Okay, that's kind of a comprehensive overview of what we call the Constitutional Money Act. And it's not as inclusive as we wanted it to be originally. There was another caveat, and that was basically the state holding on to not less than 1% of its reserves in gold and silver. By the way, other states are doing this, and I'm just going to say it flat out because I was calling other states a lot last year, and I mean a lot. They're doing it because they're worried about their pension funds, because inflation is killing bonds. They are not keeping up with inflation, and that is a fact. That's how most states actually save for their pension funds. So they're looking for other avenues to actually invest. Invest may not be the right word, but hedge their pension funds is probably the better word.
you know, you just brought something up that I didn't think about. So, you know, we've reported in previous weeks that there are about 400 banks that have over $900 billion worth of unrealized losses and commercial real estate that is about to collapse. The top 4 banks in the country have about $400 billion in unrealized losses due to the fact that the Federal Reserve increased interest rates. Now, think about all the governments that have bonds that are lower interest rates now than what's being issued by the government. Mm-hmm. If they're saving and they bought bonds like 4 or 5 years ago, those interest rates are at 3%, 2%, 4%. Mm-hmm. Interest rates now are at 5%, give or take. Mm-hmm. So that unrealized loss to the state is also there. It's not a business. It's not going to go out of business, but they're not making the yields that they should be making for their people. Plus, they're not factoring in the fact of inflation. So those bonds not only lost value because of the increase in the interest rates, but the dollars that they're receiving from these bonds, mm-hmm. I mean, they're losing value as well. Mm-hmm. I mean, the pension funds are bleeding money.
That's correct.
And putting it in gold and silver is just going to protect the pension funds for every state. Mm-hmm. So I think it was a major mistake for the treasurer of the state of Missouri to really push against this bill because he wasn't in support of it, and that him alone could have tanked the bill. But Bill Eigel made an amendment and changed and took that off. Yep.
So that's the only thing that really was on the bill that we're kind of missing out on at this point in time. But we can worry about that later. Legal tender, is very important to get done. The inclusion of the actual, let's just call it the descriptors that we use. And that is literally to describe what legal tender is in the state of Missouri. That's really important, that language that we have there, because we need gold backs. We really do. We need electronic transfers of gold and silver. That's how bullion banks like to work. We have to have all of this. And this is something I think that what we have here in Missouri, this piece of legislation, SB735, apart from not having a depository, I don't want to use that word, but that's essentially correct, is really a good piece of legislation that other states really need to look at. It's been well considered, and it came from, lots of great sources, and it was put together in a way that actually solves a problem for a state. And that's just take us back to where we were before 1913, basically, if you will, in effect, a gold standard.
Yeah.
But it's not a gold standard that backs the dollar. So, that's not what it is, gang. This is actually going on gold and silver legal tender for, transactions for goods and services, not something that's just backed by gold and silver. So that's the important distinction here. And by the way, I want to throw out one more thing here. Other countries are doing this too. I mean, it's not just, a few odd tinfoil hat wearing states in the United States that may or may not be red. I shouldn't even say that, because Wisconsin got rid of sales tax this year. Wisconsin's a blue state. They did get rid of sales tax. That's a good, sales tax on gold and silver retail purchases is what I meant to say by that. So other countries like Zimbabwe, they have gold backed their new currency over there.
It's only about 50% backed, but still, it's backed by gold.
It's backed by gold. 50% backing. And by the way, that's I'd say approximately where we were when we started the Bretton Woods Agreement.
About 40%. But yeah.
40%. And then when Bretton Woods was done in 1971, when they took us off, we were it floated between 4 and 6% backing.
They printed so much currency there in Vietnam that it completely destroyed Bretton Woods.
Yep.
And they didn't have enough gold for the other countries to redeem them.
Mm-hmm. So other countries are looking into doing the same thing, gang. So we're just a little bit ahead of the curve as far as the world's concerned. Well, maybe not, because we have 2 countries doing that right now. But we're definitely, kind of we're not on the bleeding edge. Look what Louisiana just got this done. It's time for Missouri to get this done as well, and to stop playing the high school drama politics up in Jefferson City that they have in the past.
You have Oklahoma to your northwest.
That's actually directly west.
West. You have Arkansas to the south. You have Louisiana to the southeast.
Yep.
You're getting surrounded. Tennessee has the direct west has a depository. You have states all around Missouri passing gold and silver legislation, but Missouri's legislature killed it last year. Let's see it get through this year so it can catch up with the rest of the states.
Yep, my competitive nature, is just, killing me. It's just killing me slowly on the inside. So we're doing everything we can to get this across the finish line, though. I think it's really important we remind everyone what's in the bill. What does it do? And the big deal is we need to make a friendly environment for free market solutions to come into Missouri with their ways of transacting in gold and silver.
Yep.
That's the purpose of the bill. This is why, in fact, I remember legislators asking me last year, well, why don't you have instructions in here on how the state's going to handle this? And I said, because the free market's got this. We don't want regulation from the state. We don't want it. The free market is a better way to go any way you slice it. You don't want the state controlling the currency in the state, especially when you're getting away from a tyrannical currency. That's the primary purpose of legal tender legislation with gold and silver in the first place.
And that's what we explained to the Department of Revenue. The Department of Revenue had had a higher fiscal note, about 456,000, but it said in there it could be a lot more because they called every single state agency asking them, how much do you think it's going to cost for you to accept physical gold and silver? And it could have been into the millions. So we went and met with the Department of Revenue and explained to them, no, this fiscal note should really be at zero, because what we are proposing is the state of Missouri, instead of training in the government employees on how to verify gold and silver, or hiring assayers in every county, which there aren't enough assayers to hire in every single county, and it would be ridiculously expensive. We said, look, just do a public-private partnership with a gold dealer who already does this for a living, and they can verify any type of bullion, which is the law currently allows for bullion, specie legal tender, which is printed by the U.S. Mint, gold backs. I mean, it allows any gold and silver really to be used for the gold and silver taxes. And I said, look, what you do is you just create a system like how Western Union or one of these cash checking stores, like in Florida, you can go and pay your bill, your FPL bill, your DMV bill. You deposit the cash and they send it to the agency. Do the exact same thing with these private dealership, gold and silver dealers, and boom, you solve the problem. You don't have to add any more labor. You just have these companies that make a profit because they're gonna take these gold and silver bars and coins, probably at spot, and then they're gonna resell them with a premium and make a profit. They're not even gonna really charge anything for that, and then they just send the fiat or the dollars to the government for taxes. So that's how we saw that solution. That's actually a concern for actually a few reps and a few senators asking, well, how we're going to take gold and silver in the Department of Revenue. When we told that to the Department of Revenue, they completely cut the entire fiscal note down to zero, except the API changed to accept electronic gold and silver for the payment of taxes and debts, because they said, look, any change we make, our contractors are going to charge us an arm and a leg, and they have $214,000 for allocated just to update their website systems to accept electronic gold and silver for payment of debts, and 3 coin counters at $250 a pop. So the fiscal note is now $214,750.
Yeah, but originally they wanted, assayers, basically working for the state to value the gold and silver that's being coming. And at the same time, they were thinking, well, 5,000 people a year are going to pay their taxes in gold and silver. And I said, no, it's going to be closer to 50.
Oh, and then we also fixed another part of the fiscal note. They were saying that capital gains losses could be as high as 5 million, 5.2 million or something. So we called the Sound Money Defense League with JP Cortez. I'm like, JP, we need numbers. We need numbers for how much capital gains. And he sent us what Iowa did. Iowa has half the population of Missouri, and they estimated only $400,000 in capital gains losses. So we sent that to the Department of Revenue. I'm like, hey, this is half the population. We'd like the fiscal note to only reflect, let's say, $800,000 in capital gains losses. So we're still waiting for the Department of Revenue to promulgate that new fiscal note, but it's there. They understand.
Okay, I'd like to address a comment here from Ozarks Freedom Gal. Lori Rook is running for state treasurer, and she seems very favorable to the state holding gold and silver in the treasury. She's a pretty interesting candidate to consider. Yes, that is 100% true. I have talked to Lori, and she definitely is favorable on gold and silver. She is running for treasury. She's Republican, and that is a candidate that many people may want to look into or consider. And I personally like her very much. I think she's a good person to be running for treasurer. So that one answers that. And we have a whole bunch of stuff that was typed. Yep. Let's see. Do you want to see? Okay, mandolin strings. Let's see. Guitar Authority. Guitar Authority, that's Isaac, said, I did hear that one of the water bills made it to the budget, but I haven't heard any updates on it yet. Well, I'll tell you what, we will look into that next week and see what we can do, especially if it went in without being amended or changed, so the water can't leave the state. Okay, let's see. Warrior Class 3 says, I strongly suspect the Fed is buying the bonds and keeping the rates down, which is very inflationary.
Yeah.
Let's see. We're living on borrowed time. This is from Rad Relics. He's addressing Warrior Class 3. We're living on borrowed time. Either they have figured out a way to stretch this into eternity, or they know they can't stop it. They are just rearranging the chairs on the Titanic. I suspect it's the latter. They're rearranging the chairs on the Titanic. And once again, it's insulting, and it happens all the time, but they keep saying inflation is only about 4%. We know better than, and they're saying a year, 4% upward per year. That's insane. That's absolutely insane. If anyone wants to check out numbers by John Williams, it's John Williams at Shadow Stats, not our very good friend John Williams with the Missouri Liberty Report. This would be shadowstats.com. And he will give you actually the 1980 and 1990 standards for inflation. And unfortunately, he's saying it's much closer to 15%.
Yeah.
So the government is saying 4%. John Williams with Shadow Stats is saying, no, it's actually about 15%. And actually, I think John Williams might be slightly off on that. I think it's actually closer to 20% per year. So at any rate, and I'll tell you what, the two of us have talked quite a bit. Is there anyone who's in the chat right now that wants to bring up some stuff? In Gilded? If anyone did want to bring up something.
Well, I spoke to John Williams before I came down here. I gave him a call.
Okay.
His website, actually, you can't buy a subscription through his website. You actually got to call him and email him.
You can get the data without having a subscription, though.
Right.
If you want the breakdown of the data, that's where the subscription comes in.
Yeah.
So I do believe you could still get that data. And I was on his website not even a month ago looking at inflation, and it was about 4.5. You guys remember in the Missouri Freedom Initiative, we have a rhyme: the government lies by a factor of 5. So usually when they're giving you anything from unemployment numbers to CPI, adjusted inflation numbers, it's usually they're off by about a factor of 5.
Well, I think if you pull up the website, there is a chart that shows inflation closer to about 15 to 18%, and then maybe show the viewers what that looks like. ShadowStats.com.
Okay, gotcha. We'll go to Shadow Stats and we'll bring that to you guys.
See right down there. Yeah.
Hang on, I'll
Pop it.
bring it for the. Okay, guys, this is the website. As you can see here on the address, it's shadowstats.com. And you go to alternative data, and we can go to inflation. We can even go to unemployment, money supply. So we go to inflation.
See the bottom one?
And there we go.
It's about.
Yep. So, and this is based on the 1980 standard for inflation. In 1980, they included everything, including housing, gasoline, groceries. Everything was in there. The way they've been changing it, 1990 is when they changed it. And they took a bunch of stuff out. And I do believe they took out gasoline and housing.
And New York Strip, they replaced it with chicken breast.
Seriously?
Yep.
Okay. So, yeah. So at any rate, this is where you go to get that data, gang. So when Biden's telling you, like, by the way, right here, this chart shows 4% right now that the government says. This one here says it's actually about 12%.
13,
Yeah, 12 to 13%. So, yeah, this is where I go to get my numbers because you just can't trust the government. The government lies every chance it gets.
Yeah.
So at any rate, shadowstats.com. And by the way, there's other stuff to look up here, like the unemployment rate. The government, says we're at,
Lowest
see, 4%.
Decades. They have the lowest unemployment in decades.
Yep. And the real number is actually about 25% unemployment. So, sorry, government. I mean, thank you very much for, lying to us again. But at any rate, that is that. And we'll shut up for a second. Does anyone have, we will shut up. Does anyone have anything they want to bring up or say?
Doesn't look like it.
Okay. Nothing at this time? Okay. All right. Let's see. Paul says, keep up the great work, gentlemen. Let's see. I love all of this. Hey, thank you very much, Paul. And that's Paul with the Talk Junkies. So thank you very much for checking in, Paul. We need to do a video again really soon, sir.
I like what the person right above that says.
Okay. My grocery bill, this is from Rad Relics. My grocery bill says those inflation statistics are in fact a lie. LOL. Yes, they are. And Warrior Class said the day before the dollar dies will still be an uncertainty until the next day. That is correct. That's actually a very good perspective, by the way.
Yeah. Let's see if there's any comments in Rumble or...
Yep, and checking Rumble. Nope, still Lori Rook. And...
Twitter. We got 122 people on Twitter.
Hey, hello to everyone on Twitter watching. Glad to have you guys with us. Thank you very much for joining. If you guys have any comments, throw them in the chat. Let's see if I can get to the chat. And I can. And there's nothing in the chat at this time. Okay, gang. Well, I'll tell you what. I'm going to bring up one more time. Concurrent majority reform, SJR 74, is something that needs our attention this week. and not this week. That's going on the floor Monday at 4:00. I'm pretty sure of it. I mean, I wouldn't bet my life on it, but I'm pretty sure they're going to do it Monday. Here's the deal, gang. Let's call our senators, and let's tell them to get SJR 74 through the Senate with no amendments, exactly the way the House has it, and just pass it. This is what we need to do. So, and once again, we're talking about dealing with all kinds of strange abortion IP issues that are coming up, and so we need some kind of basic protection. But also from everything else they plan to do. We've heard rumors that as soon as they're done getting abortion in the Constitution, they're coming for guns. And they will supersede SEPA by getting something put in the Constitution that actually starts making red flag laws legal. And that will supersede SEPA because SEPA is not in the Constitution. It's just a law.
For people who don't know what
I have a
SEPA
question.
is. Oh, go ahead.
I'm so sorry. I do have a question for Daniel. Wasn't there some commercial building in the Fort Worth area that,
Yeah.
wow,
it just-
that's what you were talking about a few weeks ago, what's going to start happening?
Yeah. So what I said earlier that there's about 400 banks, give or take, that have $900 billion in commercial loans that are coming due. We already had one bank collapse, Republic Bank in Pennsylvania. That's due to the commercial real estate loans that forfeited. So in St. Louis, there was the AT&T building that I think sold for, I think it was $250 million at its peak, sold for like $2 million, I think, or something like that, not too long ago. And then same thing in Texas. There was an article I just saw that came out in Texas. They just sold a building for $12.5 million, and initially it was, I don't know, $50 million or something, right?
I thought it was like 31
Oh, 30.
or even more.
Yes.
30, yeah.
So all the commercial real estate buildings are selling at 60 to 80, 90% discounts from what they sold just a few years ago. And the problem why that's happening is COVID kind of created this environment of people working from home using Zoom, and nobody wants to go back from work. Everybody's working remotely. When they realize they can work remotely and still get the work done, they stop going to these buildings. So all these owners of these buildings that have these mortgages with regional banks, because mostly regional banks have these loans, well, they're not making enough money through rent. They're not making enough revenue. People aren't renting the space. So now they're looking to convert these to affordable housing, Section 8 housing, these commercial real estate buildings, because they can't get businesses to come in and lease the space. So a lot of these banks don't have assets exceeding $10 billion. In fact, I think it was 380 banks, give or take. And of those 380 banks, only 16 of them had assets of $10 billion and more. And guess what? One of those 16 went out of business. Republic Bank in Pennsylvania. One of the 16 with $10 billion in assets actually closed down a couple of weeks ago. So the cracks are showing. The banks don't have the capital they need to withstand this collapse. So and this is why I was just reading an article that Powell is capitulating, and he's they said eating the marshmallow. So there's a study in the 70s. If you give a kid a marshmallow, you can either eat this now or wait 15 minutes and get a second one. Well, Powell ate it before the 15 minutes were up, because he was supposed to wait a little longer before he's entertaining interest rates decreases. He's going to decrease it now, which is going to hurt the economy, because once you decrease interest rates, that leads to more borrowing, which creates more inflation at a lower rate, and it's going to backfire. So he feels like he's gotten inflation under control. They're calling a soft landing, right? Yeah, right. If he lowers interest rates.
Do you think that they knew this was going to happen, or was this a surprise to them that people would not go back to work?
I don't know what the answer to that is. My opinion is that I think it was maybe partially planned to test Americans or test the people to see if they would comply. I don't know what the truth is. We do know it was now manufactured. We do know that the corporations receive special privileges to not be sued for putting out these vaccines. I mean, if you look at the simplest explanation, the government lied about the masks, lied about the 6 foot. They were just throwing things out there with no real evidence, just to see if we would comply. And guess what? We were a nice little sheep, and we complied. Not all of us. I was out there driving around in the middle of rush hour in Miami, taking videos with no cars, flying man. Let me tell you, flying during COVID was great. Nobody was in the airport. I had a late flight into Detroit, $19 round trip. I was the 68th person to come in that entire day at like 5 p.m. in Tampa. It was fantastic traveling and not listening to the government. But everybody else, not everybody, most people did. They complied. And
I remember having the roads to myself during COVID as well.
It was great. It was great. We should do it again just so we can drive around.
Did you have an official letter saying that you were an essential worker, or did you just kind of just bypass that process altogether?
Hey, it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission, man.
Yep, I hear you. I think they knew that was coming after COVID. I think they knew that they would have a hard time getting people back to work. But once again, that brings in universal basic income, which is actually part of the digital dollar. So this is all part of the plan. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it looks definitely like it's a plan, right? There's a great book. Okay, you know what? Based off what I recently read and what I know, I'm going to say it was definitely a plan. They didn't know what was going to happen. It was a test, and it worked out in their favor. People complied. But I definitely do think the monetary destruction of America is 100% a plan. I think the Fabian economists who took over the London School of Economics, who are Marxists, for those of you who don't know, the Fabian Society, they are in control of the modern monetary theory, which all the bankers and stockbrokers and institutions believe, especially a lot of Democrats and Republicans. Modern monetary theory has taken over. The world is groaning at the fact that most of the economists out there are modern monetary theorists. And look, the reality is, the world, if America wasn't here, the world would be probably already under a totalitarian rule, whether under the Soviets or under the Nazi regime or one of the other horrible regimes out there that were trying to conquer the Japanese Empire. Who knows? If America wasn't here fighting for liberty and freedom, we would already be under totalitarianism. But we, with the entrepreneurial spirit, the experiment of the founding fathers of our nation, the desire for liberty, democracy, and republicanism prevailed throughout the world, and we were such an economic powerhouse because the American people were so resilient, taking this nation that was full of like nothingness into a thriving industrial country, spreading Christian values. Let's be honest. For most of the 18th, 19th, and 20th century, we were a Christian nation in the sense that we had these Christian ethics and values that were pervasive across the government and across the country, and just morality in general. It was after World War II when we got into postmodernism and morality kind of went out the window in ethics. But these Fabians, these Marxists understood that we were the ones stopping them. And they have the thing with the Fabians and the Marxists is they played the long game. They have infiltrated every aspect of our bureaucracy. They've taken over the education system. They've taken over the federal governments, the state governments, every single aspect of human society, at least within the United States, or even in Western Europe, pretty much everywhere. They've infiltrated these modern monetary theorists, and they are purposely trying to destroy the dollar, because if we are no longer economically strong, we can't push for freedom and liberty across the world. Now, America isn't perfect. We have done a lot of bad. Corporations are part of the problem. Corporations have pillaged the global south, and the response to American empire, if you have ever read the book New Confessions of an Economic Hitman, you'll understand what I mean by American empire. They have taken and and pillaged all the natural resources and given it to these American corporations, and then redistributing the dollar, creating inflation of the dollar across all these countries that have done these deals with the World Economic, the IMF and the World Bank and so forth. So, I mean, I think it's been a methodical, incremental destruction of the American economy, the American dollar. We went from 72% of the world's central reserves in 2002 to today we have less than 58%, and economists are saying that within 2 to 5 years we're going to have less than 50%, and with BRICS coming, it's going to accelerate that loss of the dollar being the main reserve currency. So there's a lot. Yes, to answer your question, that was a long explanation. Yes, I think it's been planned, but I think it's a much longer execution than it just being the last 4 years. I think this last 4 years was an experiment, but it falls in line with pretty much everything that's been happening over the last 100 years with the spread of modern monetary theory, the Fabian Society, which if you want to look up Fabian Society, you'll see that they're socialists, quote unquote Marxists. In fact, the true Marxists, the communists and the Fabians did not get along. In fact, Stalin and Lenin killed off the Fabians in the Soviet Union because the Fabians were telling the Marxists that we should do this incrementally. The true Marxists believe in quick, violent revolution, and they basically killed off all the Fabians. The Fabians fled to the UK and took over the London School of Economics and started teaching their modern monetary theory. I just went on a rant. Sorry.
Yeah, the short answer is yes, they're doing it on
Thank
purpose,
you.
and there is a plan. Yes. So, I want to say really quick here that let's see. Okay, first of all, Rad Relics, I gave you a link to Daniel's channel, and that's on YouTube. But also, too, their website. We gave a link to that earlier. So that's Daniel's website and his YouTube channel.
Well, not my personal, the organization that I work with.
The organization, Citizens for Sound Money, to be more specific, yes.
And I don't have like a talk podcast. Everybody tells me I should have one. I get what you're saying. But I basically say this. I get invited to Ron's Basement and a bunch of people, so I talk about this stuff all the time. But
yeah, we run in a lot of the same circles. So we know a lot of the same, silver and gold folks. M. Gabriel says, do we need to have a rally to get this through? Like we did the Second Amendment Sanctuary 3 years ago, or Second Amendment Preservation Act is actually what he's referring to. But I don't think we need a rally at this point. Everyone's very familiar with this legislation. It's really about answering questions at this point, is really what it comes down to.
It would be nice to have a group of people here when it's on the floor, but we just don't know when it's going to be on the floor.
That's correct. It's impossible to predict. It's impossible.
Like, literally. It's a literally 5 to 20 minute change in the bill. We were there on, what day were we there? Wednesday?
Monday, Tuesday. Yeah.
When we met with the Department of Revenue. We met with the Department of Revenue. Big win. No lie. 20 minutes later, there was a roadblock. And then again, 5 minutes later, another roadblock. It was like every 10, 20 minutes, there was something going on with the bill, ups and downs, up and down. So we really don't know. We want to tell people to come out because I think it would be great to have people in the gallery you can't cheer, but watch the debates and see the Constitutional Money Act passed. But we really don't know what's going to happen.
Maria 28 says, please keep us informed on the state senators and representatives that oppose sound money. We will definitely do that, but we'll wait till after session's over. We'll provide a full, detailed report on basically the roadblocks we encountered and also the people that voted against the sound money legislation in the state of Missouri. And that record will be on the Missouri Freedom Initiative website. So everyone will know. We'll post that. So I think that's important for people to know as well, whether it gets through or not. And frankly, gang, I think we got a really, really good chance of getting this through this year. But we always have to be cautiously optimistic. I hate to use politispeak, but because anything could go wrong at this point, but right now things are looking good. And that includes with House leadership right now. Dean Plocker, by the way, I got to give a shout out.
Yes.
Dean Plocker has actually kept his word with everything he has promised both Daniel and Bill Hardwick. So he's actually helping with the process of getting this through the House 100%. With all the lost time. And so I want to say thank you very much to Dean Plocker. Thank you.
And look, we spent how many weeks in the Senate? How many weeks since January? It passed the Senate 4 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, that sounds about right. And it was sitting there in the Senate without being able to be passed for approximately 2 months.
About 2 months. And then once it got to the House, I think it was passed on a Thursday. By Monday, it was referred to Hardwick's committee. In 1 week, we went through Hardwick's committee, an executive session, rules, then the financial review committee, 4 committees in less than a week. Because we went from Tuesday was one of the committee to Friday, it got out of fiscal review, and then it's on the House floor potentially on Monday. Man, the speaker was kicking in, put a rocket fuel in that bill and shot it right through. So I'm very happy and pleased with Speaker Plocker pushing this bill right through the House. Let's get it to, I want to see it get to the House and pass, and then it's all focus on the governor, because we've heard a rumor that the governor might veto this bill. So ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching from Missouri or outside, the minute this gets passed in the House, call nonstop the governor's office and let them know you would like them to pass him to sign into law SB 735. Because right now, we heard it's a rumor. We don't know for sure. We don't know what the reasons are, but that is the situation.
Okay, so if anyone has any questions, and I know a lot of this is internal stuff that basically wasn't really brought to the group because actually it had to be handled internally. So there's been Daniel and I have been working hard. Let's just put it that way. And of course, you know, the sponsors and the bill handlers have been working very hard. Actually, I've got to tell you this too. The Freedom Caucus is working hard on this bill. They've announced it's a priority for the Freedom Caucus, a very high priority for the Freedom Caucus. So there's a lot of folks working hard on this. So, and my thanks to everyone. In fact, my thanks to Dean Plocker for, you know, helping speed this through the House. Yeah. So, because we lost a lot of time.
And Representative Hardwick, he told us yesterday that he's spending at least 5 hours a day on SB 735, talking to leadership, talking to representatives, working with the Freedom Caucus to do everything to make sure that this bill, he said this bill is important to him, it's important to the Missourians in the state. And you know what? Senator Eigel did everything he could to get it out of the Senate. Representative Hardwick is doing everything he can. He has dedicated everything he can to get this bill through the House of Representatives to make this a law. And this is going to help. Look, there's a saying in the Bitcoin community. I'm hijacking it for the gold and silver community. You fix the money, you fix the world. You fix the money, you're going to help fix a bunch of the poverty situations, the issue with the loss of purchasing power, people not being able, and people with Social Security can now put their money in the gold and silver and feel confident that they're not going to lose purchasing power. You know, it's going to solve so many different things, and hopefully it strengthens the economy here in the state. I know Utah is going to come out with a report here soon to see how their legal tender legislation has affected the state economy. So let's see, man. There's a lot of interesting things. If Missouri passes this, you guys would be #1 in the country for sound money legislation. On the Sound Money Defense League website, they have a map of all the states.
Wyoming is #1 currently.
Right now. But you guys pass this, boom. You guys are going to pass Wyoming right to the top.
That's right. CL Moody is checking in, and Ozarks Freedom Gal, and they were having a little conversation here. Once again, this goes back to what we were talking about earlier with the last 4 years with the scandemic. Ozarks Freedom Gal says, during COVID, the World Economic Forum put out a YouTube video bragging about their plans to turn all empty commercial buildings into affordable housing, aka pods and 15-minute cities.
So yeah, it's definitely planned. Definitely planned.
Well, that's what we said, and it was definitely a plan. But it's also a plan to move us to the digital dollar. That is 100%. A big part of their plan. And CL Moody says they also put a ton of 5G towers while most people were at home. That's right. These are military-grade weapons, particularly if they can operate at 60 gigahertz, I think is what it is. That's where you can stop absorption of oxygen into a red blood cell. So all animal life, I'm not talking about plant life now, all animal life, basically could be terminated within a radius of a 5G tower by broadcasting at something, I think it's like 60 gigahertz. And that you just can't take up oxygen anymore. Your body, won't let that happen under that frequency if you're under the influence of a frequency like that. Okay, but I didn't want to go negative. So sorry about that for anyone who got upset with that piece of information. And let's see. I'm not going to say that. Let's see. I think we've pretty much covered everything here. And Maria and let's see. Oh, I'm sorry. You guys were having a conversation there. Okay. All right. Well, guys, I think we've pretty much covered everything that we intended to. So stay tuned. In other words, like I said, I won't have access to email while I'm up there. So the best bet for everyone is to, in fact, I can put out shorts. So I can actually put out shorts on the YouTube channel. So watch for shorts. Watch Ron's Basement.
You could also go live on YouTube or Twitter.
Yeah, we could go. Yeah, that's true. We could go live on YouTube or Twitter on the phone. So if we have a problem that we need really serious help with the grassroots, apart from just calling your reps once again and sending that email to the rep, they may have heard from you 3 or 4 times. Just let them know, basically now 735 is coming your way. So I want you to vote yes. And I don't want any amendments to that bill. Let's get it through clean. Just like the Second Amendment Preservation Act went through. Clean.
Yes.
This will be the first bill since the Second Amendment Preservation Act, I believe, to get through without any amendments. So,
except for the amendment that the sponsor did himself, which was get the 1% off.
Well, no, I mean actually title change.
Oh, got you.
So that's what they were actually talking about this at the Mike Moon presentation today.
It's unconstitutional to do it.
It's unconstitutional. It happens all the time. The constant, never-ending changing of title to single subject titles is in the Missouri Constitution, and that's something that's violated almost every day up in Jeff City, unfortunately.
Technically, because it's unconstitutional, I think every citizen in Missouri has standing to sue the legislature for passing laws that violate the Constitution, which could nullify those laws.
We could.
Thank you.
I mean, the number one question a judge asks is, do you have standing? Well, if you violate the state constitution, you as a citizen of the state have standing to sue the government for violating its own constitution and then nullifying that law. But then the question is, are your judges constitutionalists, or are they living, breathing document believers?
Yep.
So that's the question you Missourians need to ask.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and I was just asked if Ron's Basement is another channel by Rad Relics. And yes, Ron's Basement is on YouTube as well as on, gosh darn it, he's on Rumble, and he's on a couple others too. I can't remember. But Sam Britton, who is with us right now from Missouri Liberty Radio, also carries Ron's Basement on his channel, or I'm sorry, on his radio station. So you guys could go to, and Sam, you could give us the details on when you carry Ron's Basement.
It's in the afternoon, about give or take about 1 o'clock.
Okay. And that would be molibertyradio.us. That's Missouri Liberty Radio, where you can listen to, if you're not in Owensville, you can listen to it on 101.3 FM. In Owensville, once you leave Owensville, you need to get on the net to listen to it.
And are we slated to be on Sam's show tomorrow to talk about this?
Yep. Sam, do you want us on the radio?
Yeah, we can. Yeah. I mean, we hadn't planned it, but I mean, I could certainly have you guys in. Maybe come in the second hour.
Okay.
Because that's right about prime time.
Okay, gotcha.
Perfect. We'll come in there.
And it's prime time for a lot of my listeners, I find, show up at 7 because they're usually doing something else or something
Dinner
at 6, like
something.
supper or something, depending on what time zone they're in or whatever. But usually by about 7 Central, it encompasses just about everybody other than what might be going on over on the left coast.
Perfect.
Yep.
Yeah, we've been doing a lot of interviews.
A lot of radio.
We
Yeah.
did Ron's Basement. We did Nick. What's his name?
Nick Reed.
Nick Reed. We're going to be on Rob Carter's, but there was some type of issue, I think, last night.
That's right.
But they all asked to call in, so I'm going to try to get on as much media as possible. We need to push this and let people know, let the Missourians know about the SB735. This is going to help them 100%. So.
Yep. So that's the main way we're reaching out to everyone in Missouri right now is, through these live streams we do, through Ron's Basement, through Liberty and Finance on YouTube, through, all kinds of radio. And we're very grateful for the access to radio.
100%.
This is a big way to get the message out about the silver and gold legislation we have in the state of Missouri. Very, very important. And it reaches a lot of people. And it's, talk radio. So that's the main demographic you want to listen to anyway. People who listen to talk radio generally are more apt to actually get involved politically, make a phone call to a senator or representative. So as opposed to people who just watch television, and by the way, I'm just talking about actual demographic data. People who watch television and don't listen to radio are much, much less likely to actually get involved.
Yeah. And that's another thing. They were talking about it a little bit at the Mike Moon's event, and also I talk about it all the time when I'm speaking at conferences or on radio or whatnot. That look, the reason why the government doesn't listen is because most of the people don't do anything but complain. I think, if I'm not mistaken, they said, don't complain, go out and do something.
Yep,
get
that's
involved.
right.
Go to the Capitol. Pick up go knock on doors. I mean, what did they say? They said 3% of Americans are colonialists, are all that took to overthrow the British Empire. That's how many people in the colonies that
actually took up arms.
3%. Can you imagine if 10% of Americans actually got up and did something? That's 30 million Americans. Divide that by 50 states. I don't know how much that is, but
it'd be about 800,000 per state.
Per state. If 800,000 citizens stood up and went to they'd shut down state governments. 10%. Come on, guys. We can do better. We can change this country. We just need to rise up from the 1% or less that are actually doing something and become 10% of this country to overthrow and change this country for the good.
And by the way, we're not saying take up arms.
No.
We're saying
no.
literally pick up the phone.
Pick up the phone, go and knock on the doors. Not revolution.
Well, and that's for a campaign.
Yeah.
If you're getting involved in state politics, it's better to, if you've never done anything before, join an existing organization.
Yeah.
And work with them. Learn the ins and outs. Learn how the procedure works in your capital.
So we, Citizens of Sound Money, are starting a pilot program. We're starting a state chapter in Texas. Our one of our board members, Rob Keentz, is going to be the state chair of Texas. We're probably in the next couple months or so, we'll roll this out so that Texans can join Citizens of Sound Money, create a grassroots, so that we can push the Sound Money legislation next year. I know it's going to be a big push in 2025. In Texas. So if that goes well, we'll roll this out across the country, and then anybody can join Citizens of Sound Money to push sound money legislation and sound money education. Because we believe the reason why nobody knows gold and silver is money is because we stopped teaching that gold and silver is money. So we're going to create curriculum from the pre-K level up to the university level and push that legislation to be taught in schools from pre-K all the way up to the university level.
We got a comment here
That
from.
is so awesome. I can't even tell you.
That's wonderful. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So we have a 501c3 called Sound Money Movement. We got our C4, which is Citizens for Sound Money, that's the political advocacy. And then because of all the experiences we've had in the legislature, we realized the best way and the easiest way to get legislation through is through super PACs and supporting our friends and leadership that are pro Sound Money to help get the bills through faster. So we're trying to make a huge change in this country, Citizens for Sound Money.
Yep. Rad Relic says, how do you feel about many Missouri radio stations being taken over this week? And Rad Relics, I was not aware of that. Yeah. I'm going to have to look that up and see what that's all about, because we're on a lot of Missouri radio stations.
Mm-hmm. And by taken over by who, for what, is my question. Let's see if there's anything else in Rumble or.
Let's see. Yes, from CL Moody. I have seen information put out about a lawyer and an ex-CIA agent that since mid-April, they've been ramping up their microwaves at night while we sleep. You know, that's terrible. You know, cook us while we sleep, right?
We don't have to worry about that here. We don't have any 5G where you live.
Yeah, we do. It's that tower.
That's 5G? Well, then why don't I get it? How'd you get LTE here?
I don't know how to answer that.
That's an interesting question.
You know, it's the Verizon tower is directly that'd be northwest. West is a Verizon tower, and straight to the north is a T-Mobile tower.
Okay.
Okay, gang. Well, I'll tell you what. We'll give you guys a chance to bring up any more questions before we end it for this evening. And I do want to let you guys know, if all goes well this week, the way we think it will go, there will not be a live stream next Saturday because I'll be in Washington, D.C., celebrating the life of Jim Forsyth, the founder of Citizens for Sound Money. So we won't have a live stream next Saturday. And that's a terrible time, I get that, because we may have won by next Saturday. The legislation may have gone through. We won't have a celebratory live stream like we did with the Second Amendment Preservation Act, but this is something that was set up months and months ago. And so this is something that, that I do need to go to. So we'll see what we can do. Maybe we can do a live stream just on YouTube or something like that. Something like that. We'll figure something out, but it won't be for very long. Yeah. Because I'll be visiting with folks all over the world that are coming to share in the celebration of Jim Forsyth's life. So I need to pay attention to them.
All right.
Okay, let's see. Pika says, thanks for the live stream. I'm going to go. Thank you for joining tonight, Pika. Hopefully everything's doing okay in Nevada. Sorry we haven't talked lately, buddy, but you understand why. It's almost over. We're almost done. And then we get the fun job of vetting candidates, basically that are running for office.
Careful, the GOP suing.
Yep, I know. Let's see. I miss Patrick. It's been some time. Hope we can talk sometime soon. Same thing, buddy. I miss talking to you too, but the last month it's been virtually impossible. But at the same time, like I said, we got 1 week left, man, and I'll pick up the phone and we'll talk again, Pika. Pika and I are personal friends, by the way.
And for those of you that want to know what I meant by the GOP is suing, so when the local Republican counties try to
Central committees
try to vet candidates, the state party sues the counties, central committees for vetting Republicans.
Yep. So the Republican Party doesn't, and by the way, we're talking about the rhinos in the Republican State Central Committee. They do not want counties vetting candidates that are running out of those districts. They say that's bad form. So,
By the way, keep on using that word rhino because it's really beginning to make me very angry.
The swamp.
And so
the
use
swamp.
it.
The swamp and the rhinos.
Mm-hmm.
They're I think the grassroots are starting to kick back and start to take back the party here, but it's still a long road ahead.
Yep. Okay, I'm going to check one more time here. Let's see. I think that's pretty much it on the comments here. Okay, yep. That is it. So I want to thank you all for joining us tonight. Remember, to keep the calls up, basically in the house, the calls and emails for your reps. And keep, supporting SB735, but also call your senator.
Yes.
And ask them to support and allow SJR 74 to go through unamended. Exactly the way it is right now that it came over in the House. And we can get this done, gang. This would be 2 major victories for the state of Missouri if we can get IP done as well as the Constitutional Money Act. Mm-hmm. This would be one of the biggest years Missouri's ever seen for constitutional legislation.
Yeah. Especially with the Constitutional Money Act.
Yep, that's right. Okay, gang. I think that's pretty much it, though. So I want to thank you all for joining us once again, especially since it's a Saturday night. But your time is precious. We know that. If you're spending it with the Missouri Freedom Initiative, looking to how you can better the state of Missouri, thank you very, very much. If you participate and go to the Capitol, I mean, that's huge. If you make phone calls and do emails, that is very helpful. All of this stuff matters, and this is how we fix our state. This is how we drain the swamp. So I want to say thank you once again to everyone who is participating, and to everyone, I wish a blessed weekend. May God bless each and every one of you and your families with good health, with wisdom, and with courage. Take care, gang.